What if the one man sworn to protect you was also the one man capable of breaking your heart, your trust, and your entire world with a single choice? That question hung over Charlotte Dalton like a storm cloud the night everything changed at the Dalton Ranch. 3 miles outside Copper Ridge, Montana territory, the prairie winds blew cold across the grass as the sun dipped low. The Dalton Ranch stood steady against the wide sky, its weathered wooden house holding more secrets than any home ever should. Jackson Dalton, 32 years old and worn down by responsibility, rode through the front gate feeling something wrong before he even saw it. He had spent the day at the Westbrook cattle auction, sold 6 steers, and carried $200 in his saddlebag, but none of that settled the uneasy feeling twisting in his gut. Usually by this hour, the house glowed with lamplight and the kitchen smelled of supper. Tonight, everything looked still, too still. Jackson stopped at the barn first. When he pushed the door open, his breath locked in his throat. Clover, Charlotte's gray mare, stood saddled in her stall, sweat dried on her coat, reins dragging in the hay. Charlotte never put her horse away like that. Never. She treated Clover like a child, brushed her coat every night, checked her hooves twice. Something had rattled her. Something bad. Jackson's jaw tightened. He pulled the saddle off himself, trying to quiet the storm rising inside him. Then he headed for the house, each step slow and controlled, even as fear crawled up his spine. Inside, only one lamp burned. Amelia sat in the rocking chair, pretending to mend a sock. Riley sat on the settee, pretending to read. 2 girls pretending nothing was wrong. Jackson filled the doorway with his shoulders. Where is she? Amelia's needle froze. Riley closed her book. Both sisters looked guilty, and guilt never sat well on the Dalton women. Upstairs, Amelia whispered. She came home an hour ago. She said she had a headache. Jackson stepped farther into the room. What really happened? Riley tried to answer, but her voice trembled. She went out. On Clover. She told us she was visiting Margaret Kensington. Jackson stared at her. Margaret moved to Billings 3 weeks ago. Silence. Try again, he said. This time, Riley stood. Her small hands shook, but her chin lifted. She went to meet someone. A man. Jackson felt every muscle in his body tighten. Who? A freight worker. His name is Lucas Sterling. He meets her on the North Road. They've been talking for 2 months. 2 months. 2 months his sister had been sneaking around behind his back. Jackson set the lamp down before his hands could crush it. Without another word, he went upstairs. He knocked once on Charlotte's door. Open it, now. The door cracked open. Charlotte stood there in her nightgown, eyes red, cheeks flushed, hair loose around her shoulders. She looked young and frightened. She also looked guilty. Downstairs, he made her stand in front of the fireplace while her sisters watched. Jackson leaned against the mantel, arms crossed, the weight of every year pressing down on him. Start talking. Charlotte swallowed hard. I met him at the Mercantile. He was kind. He helped carry packages. He started waiting for me on Sundays. We just talked. What was today? Jackson asked. More talking? Charlotte reached into her pocket and handed him a small wooden box. Inside was a silver bracelet, too fine, too expensive. He gave me this. Jackson snapped the box shut. Where does a freight worker get money for something like that? He said he saved for it. He's lying. Charlotte shook her head. You don't know him. I know men who meet women in secret, Jackson said, voice low and sharp. I know men who charm girls until they end up alone, ashamed and with no future left. And I know a coward when I see one. If he wanted to court you, he would have asked me first. Charlotte's eyes filled. He was going to. Eventually? Jackson asked. That means never. Anger broke through Charlotte's tears. You don't trust anyone. You chase away every man who looks at us. You stand in corners at dances, watching us like we're prisoners. It's my job to protect you, Jackson said. We don't want a warden, Charlotte cried. We want a brother, quote. The room fell silent. The only sound was the low crackle of the dying lamp flame. Riley stepped forward. "You're afraid, Jackson. You're afraid we'll leave you. You're afraid you'll be alone." Jackson exhaled, slow and shaky, though he tried to hide it. "Get upstairs, all of you." The sisters climbed the stairs without another word. Doors closed. The house sank into heavy quiet. Jackson stood alone in the parlor, feeling every fear he had kept buried rise to the surface. He sat in the dark until dawn, replaying every word Charlotte said, every tear she shed, every truth Riley spoke. He had given up everything for them, his future, his dreams, his life. And now? Now he risked losing them anyway. Morning came gray and miserable. Jackson called the girls to breakfast. They sat in silence, pushing food around their plates. He told them new rules, strict rules. No going to town alone. No dances unless he was there. No secrets. Riley finally slammed the ledger shut and stood. "This isn't protection. This is madness." Jackson's jaw clenched. He felt everything slipping away and didn't know how to stop it. The sisters left the room one by one, hurt and furious. Jackson stood alone again. The ranch felt colder than it ever had, and for the first time in his life, he wondered if all his protecting had only taught his sisters how to fear him instead of trust him. The Dalton Ranch moved through the next days like a house holding its breath. Jackson tried to follow the rules he laid down, but every rule felt heavier when he saw the hurt in his sisters' eyes. The girls tried to act normal, but their laughter came out thin and shaky. Something between them had cracked, and none of them knew how to mend it. Then, everything shifted again. It started with cinnamon rolls. On the fourth morning, Jackson walked into the kitchen, expecting the same cold silence. Instead, all three sisters sat at the table smiling like nothing had happened. Coffee steamed. Fresh rolls waited on a plate. The kitchen glowed warm and bright. It frightened him more than their anger. "Morning," Amelia chirped. "Good morning," Charlotte added, too cheerful. Riley pushed a cup of coffee toward him. "You should eat. You worked hard yesterday." Jackson stared at the three of them. Something was wrong. This wasn't kindness. This was a plan. The Dalton sisters were terrible at lying and worse at secrets, and right now they were trying very hard to hide something. He sat slowly. "What are you three up to?" Charlotte folded her hands. "We've been talking." Jackson stiffened. "We realized something," Amelia said. "You're lonely." He nearly dropped his fork. Charlotte leaned forward. "You gave up your own life to raise us. Now we're older and you don't have anything for yourself. No friends, no social life, no sweetheart." Riley nodded. "You need companionship. Someone who can share the load. Someone who can make you smile." Jackson set down his fork. "No." "Yes," Charlotte insisted. "You need a wife." "I don't have time for courting," Jackson said. "You have time to track our monthly cycles," Riley shot back. "You have time to stand in corners watching us at dances. But you don't have time to meet someone who could make you happy?" Jackson felt his face heat. "That's different." "No," Amelia said gently. "It isn't." The sisters had made up their minds. Jackson could feel it the same way he felt weather shifts. Something was coming, and he would not like it. He didn't. The first woman arrived 2 days later. Clara Thornton drove a wagon full of sewing supplies straight to the porch and stepped down in a dress too tight and a smile too eager. She talked to Jackson like she had known him her whole life and looked at him like he was a prize hog at the fair. Jackson escaped to the barn. The second woman was Mildred Beaumont, who preached for 20 minutes about sin before even stepping into the house. She criticized the stew, the salt, and the sisters' manners. She left only because Riley politely pushed her out the door. The third woman arrived at night. Bella Sawyer waited in the barn with a lantern, a perfume cloud, and a dress better suited for a saloon. She approached Jackson like he was a customer, and she was for hire. She left offended. Jackson left furious. When he stormed into the house, his sisters scattered like quail. "A working girl?" he said. "In my barn?" Charlotte threw up her hands. "We didn't know?" Riley shook her head. "We just wanted to help." "You are done helping," Jackson said, heading upstairs, but the damage was done. The sisters knew they had failed. The plan was falling apart. Then Riley said the name that changed everything. Peyton Kensington. Jackson froze. The girl from the mercantile. Calm eyes. Steady hands. Smart. Kind. The only woman who hadn't giggled at him or stared at him like a prize. Charlotte lifted her chin. She's normal, she's capable, she's decent. And, Amelia added, you turned red as a tomato when she talked to you. I did not, Jackson muttered. All three sisters nodded. By the next morning, they had already sent the invitation. 2 weeks later, Peyton arrived. She stepped down from her wagon with quiet confidence, her pale blue dress neat, her hair pinned in a simple bun. She smiled at Jackson, warm, friendly, not forced, not flirtatious, just real. Jackson forgot how to breathe. The sisters welcomed her inside. Peyton offered help without asking. She cooked, cleaned, laughed with them, and spoke to Jackson with a steadiness that calmed him in ways he didn't understand. She did not try to impress him. She did not try to seduce him. She simply existed. And somehow, that was enough. Over the next few days, Jackson found himself making excuses to walk into rooms she was in. He found himself watching the way she worked dough with her hands. He found himself listening when she talked about running the mercantile. He found himself wanting things he had never allowed himself to want. One morning he tried to cook breakfast to impress her. The kitchen filled with smoke. Peyton stepped in, smiled gently, and rescued the meal without teasing him. You have other skills, she said kindly. Jackson nearly melted on the spot. That afternoon, he asked her to ride with him to check the south fence. They talked about dreams, his long-lost law school plans, her longing to travel. They talked about choices they never got to make. They talked like two people who suddenly understood each other. When they reached the barn that evening, Jackson helped her down. His hands touched her waist. She didn't move away. He didn't let go. Thank you, she said softly. So did I, he whispered. The sisters watched from the window, smiling. For the first time in years, the ranch felt peaceful. But peace is fragile, and secrets break it faster than any storm. Because while Jackson was falling for Peyton, his sisters were hiding one truth. She hadn't come on her own. They had brought her. And the moment Jackson learned that truth, everything they were building would fall apart. For a little while, everything at the Dalton Ranch felt steady. Jackson stopped hovering over his sisters. The sisters stopped fighting him at every turn. And Peyton moved through the house with a calm grace that brought peace to places that had not felt peaceful in years. But peace built on a secret is like a fence built on soft ground. It looks sturdy until the first hard wind hits. That wind came one June morning. Amelia had asked Jackson for the wagon to visit a quilting circle. He agreed without a second thought. But that morning when Amelia was hitching the horse, Jackson walked out and said, "Actually, I need the wagon today. I'm taking Peyton to the mill." Amelia froze. "But you promised I could go." "I know, but this is important. Peyton needs to check on a shipment." "So her plans matter more than mine?" "That's not what I said." Tears filled Amelia's eyes as she whispered, "Everything she needs is more important than anything we need. You don't even see us anymore." She ran into the house, leaving Jackson stunned. Peyton stepped out of the barn, worry on her face. "I should give you time with her," she said gently. Jackson shook his head. "I just don't understand what they want from me." Peyton touched his arm lightly. "They want you. Not the warden you used to be, not the stranger you are becoming, just you." Jackson stared at the house. "I don't know how to be both." "Then learn," Peyton said softly. "They aren't children anymore. They just want to know you still care." But the hurt didn't stop there. Instead, it cracked open something the sisters had been trying to hide. That afternoon, Jackson walked up the stairs and heard voices behind the shared bedroom door. Voices full of guilt, frustration, and fear. "We have to tell him," Charlotte said. "He thinks Peyton came on her own." "He'll hate us," Amelia whispered. "He'll be hurt," Riley said quietly. "But hiding it hurts worse." Jackson pushed the door open. All three sisters froze. Charlotte stepped forward, her face tight. "Jackson, we need to tell you something. It's about Peyton." "What about her?" he asked, though part of him already knew he wouldn't like the answer. Charlotte swallowed hard. Then she said the words that broke him. "We brought her here, on purpose. We begged her to visit you. We told her you needed company. It was all a plan to distract you so you'd stop smothering us." The room went silent. Jackson didn't move, didn't breathe. "You used me," he said finally, voice low and hollow. "You turned my life into one of your schemes." Quote, "We were wrong," Amelia said, tears rising. "We didn't think it would get this far." "We didn't know you'd fall for her," Riley whispered. "You didn't know." Jackson laughed once, but it wasn't a happy sound. "You didn't think about how this would feel? You didn't think I'd care?" Quote, the sisters began to cry. Jackson walked downstairs without another word. Peyton was in the parlor, hands clasped, fear in her eyes. "Jackson," I heard. "Let me explain." He stood in front of her, his face shaken. "Did you know?" Peyton's silence was answer enough. "At first," she admitted softly, "but then everything changed." Jackson's voice cracked. "How can I trust that? How can I believe anything was real when it all started with a lie?" Peyton reached for him. "Because you know me. Because every moment between us after that was true." He stepped back. His sister stood in the doorway, crying, begging him not to go. But Jackson grabbed his bag, slung it over his shoulder, and said the words that shattered the house. "I'm done being a problem you think you need to fix. I'm going to think about what I want for once." Then he mounted Rust and rode toward town without looking back. The ranch fell apart without him. Feed ran low. Bills piled up. A section of fencing collapsed, and none of the girls knew how to repair it. They realized how much he carried. Every burden, every detail, every danger, and guilt ate them alive. On the third day, Peyton stood up from the table. "I'm going to him," she said, "but not to beg, to tell him the truth he needs to hear." She rode Clover straight to the Westbrook place. Jackson was in the barn, hammering boards that didn't need fixing. He didn't look up when she approached. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "I know," she replied softly. "But you're hurting, and so am I." He kept working. Peyton stepped closer. "Jackson, you were right to be angry. We were wrong. I was wrong. But everything that grew between us was real. You can hate how it began, but you can't deny what it became." Jackson's hand slowed. "You don't understand," he muttered. "I do," she said. "You spent years giving everything to your sisters, and the moment you found something for yourself, it felt ripped away. But not by me, not by them. By fear. Their fear of losing you, your fear of being alone." He finally looked at her, eyes tired. "I don't know how to go back," he whispered. "Then don't go back," Peyton said. "Go forward. Forgive them, forgive me, and let us earn your trust the right way. No schemes, no secrets." He stared at her for a long moment, then his voice dropped. "What about us?" Peyton's eyes softened. "I'm willing to start again. From the beginning. Properly." Jackson stepped closer. "Properly?" "Properly," she whispered. And this time, he kissed her, not with confusion or hurt, but with hope. Jackson rode home the next morning. His sisters waited in the yard, shaking and crying. He let them cling to him, let them apologize until they ran out of words. Then he pulled them close and said, "I'm coming home, but things will be different. I will trust you more, and you will be honest with me. No more secrets, no more lies." Quote. They nodded, crying harder. Peyton waited on the porch. When Jackson walked up the steps, he stopped in front of her. "Are you staying?" he asked. "If you want me to," she said. He reached for her hand. "I do." Months passed. The ranch healed. The sisters grew into strong young women. Jackson learned to trust them. Peyton ran the household beside him with steady hands and a warm heart. And one evening, under the cottonwood trees by the creek, Jackson asked her to be his wife. She said yes, before he finished the question. They married in November. Simple, sweet, beautiful. A year later, they welcomed a son. And one night, with the baby asleep nearby and a soft wind rattling the windows, Jackson pulled Peyton close and whispered, "If I catch you under my sheets, you will sing praise until the rooster forgets to crow." She laughed, warm and happy. "Still making promises, Cowboy?" "Still keeping them," he murmured, and he did, for the rest of their lives.